I'm really pleased to introduce Dr. Adam Mestyan to this lecture. And he was so generous with me, actually, and with the center. He's come to Beirut for a short visit on research. He's now a fellow at Harvard. Actually, he was stolen by Harvard they stole him from us. Adam applied as a fellow to the Arts and Defense Initiative years ago. And he was number one on the list between something like 83 applicants, or more than 100 applicants, I recall at that time. When we offered him, he said, no, your rival university took me for 5 years, so I'm so happy for you. Anyway, so in this short time, we were in touch. He's visiting Beirut to do research, carry on his research on Maroon Naqash, and we met for a coffee for the first time. So I thought, we'll just snatch him for a lecture. And again, he was so generous. He directly gave me two possible themes. One on Egypt, one on Turkey, was it?
No, Egypt.
Egypt. And the other one was Maroon Naqash, and he had second thoughts. It's a bit shy that everyone knows Maroon Naqash here. How can I talk about Maroon Naqash? So I thought, you're the expert. We know of Maroon Naqash by name, perhaps, not more than this. But anyway, to cut a long story short, I really very much appreciate, and I'm very pleased to introduce, and that we're here today, Dr. Adam Mestyan. Please welcome him, and we give you the floor.
Thank you very much for these really kind words, and I must say that now I know what I lost when I didn't accept that invitation, which was also most generous. And really thank you so much, Maher, for this opportunity that I can present my work, because I think this is the right place, actually, to talk about Maroon Naqash. It's also a great pleasure for me to talk in a university where Mohammad Yusuf Najm was the main representative of theater history, and his work is until now a basic work that everybody, and including me, uses, and we build our interpretations and histories on his great Masrahiya work. But of course, times change, and since the publication of his work in the 1950s, there occurred new paradigms, new possibilities. For instance, archives opened which were not available at that time. One of the archives which opened was the Ottoman archives in Istanbul, and those who are interested in the 19th century history of Bilad al-Sham, the Syrian provinces, these archives provide lots of material in Ottoman Turkish and in Arabic as well, but mostly in Ottoman Turkish. I myself focus on the Ottoman background of Egypt in the 19th century, and I just finished the book manuscript about patriotism in Egypt as a negotiated compromise between the Khedive and the local elites. But that's a cultural history, also through theaters, but also journalism and other types of means. That book is under contract with the university press, so I don't want to talk about it because it's not a binding contract yet, so I don't want to. I did some research when I worked in Istanbul on theater in general, also theater in Istanbul itself, in the early 19th century. So this is my perspective when I look at the cultural movement or new cultural genres in the 19th century, in Arabic as well, the Ottoman view. So I look at Beirut also from Istanbul, and this is what I like to present to you, first of all. Second, what I would like to present to you is a little theory about Maroon Naqash and to understand his environment and circumstances. And the third thing what I would like to present to you is a very simple question, namely, why did he stop writing plays at a particular moment? Everybody knows who is Maroon Naqash, right, or not? Of those who don't, so Maron Naqash was a Maronite merchant. He was born in 1817. I think I just stand up. Is it better?
Yes, please.
Okay. So yeah. So he was. I will show some images as well. So he was born in 1817. His family is from Saida, from Sidon. They moved to Beirut during the Egyptian occupation in the 1830s. Naqash then, there was a father. The father was called Elias Naqash. He was a big merchant. There were two sons, or according to some sources, 4 sons, but there were 2 sons, Nicola and Maroon. Maroon wrote 3 plays. The first one, Al-Bakhil, in 1847. The second one, Abu al-Hasan al-Mughaffal or Harun al-Rashid, around 1849. The fourth one, As-Salit al-Husud, in 1851. He died in 1855. So one of the questions that I will discuss is why did he stop theatrical activities around 1851, 1852? But let's first have a look in his environment. So what's going on in the 1840s in the Ottoman world? The most important thing is the restoration of Ottoman rule in the Shami provinces, as all of you know. At the same time, what's going on in Istanbul? In Istanbul, this is a moment of, I don't want to talk much about the Tanzimat reforms because everybody knows the Tanzimat, the legal reforms of the Ottoman Empire. It started earlier, but accelerated during Abdul Majid's early reign from 1839, the famous Gülhane Edict, and so on and so forth. I don't want to talk about the legal background. But what I would like to talk about is the cultural life in Istanbul. So from the mid-1830s, there are increasing European theater troupes in Istanbul, including circuses. There is also an increased Ottoman-Armenian activity in Istanbul concerning entertainment, providing entertainment both for the Sultan and for the general population. There are Italian exchanges between Istanbul and certain Italian cities, especially Milano. Many Armenians study in Milano music and theatrical arts and then turn back to Istanbul. So by the 1850s, there is a more or less established theater life, especially in Pera, today's Beyoğlu, and later on in other districts. There is a very high level of Ottoman entertainment history, and this is the Sultan himself. So Abdul Majid loved opera, Italian opera, himself. There was actually a Christian from Halep called Michel Naoum, who established a theater in Istanbul around the 1840s, around the 1840, and then this became the today Istiklal Çadesi, a proper Italian opera house at the time. He also performed his troops. He brought troops from Italy mostly. Performed also for the Sultan in the palace, so it was a kind of export. And then, but Sultan Abdul Majid also himself in person visited this theater in Istanbul. In Cairo, especially this European, Italian-French circuses were also popular, and some of the visiting Italian opera troupes were also performing in Alexandria and even in Cairo in the 1830s already, especially for marriage ceremonies and Muhammad Ali Pasha's daughter's wedding. I don't want to describe more on this, but this is the general background of the entertainment scene in the 1840s. Another important feature is that at the same time what's going on in Italy or in Europe in general, but let's talk only about Italy. Theater functions somehow in a very close association with the city itself, with the municipality itself. It is related to patriotism, especially in Italy for the unification of Italy. This is the beginning of the Risorgimento. This is the moment when Verdi starts to write operas and so on and so forth. So there is a political understanding of the theater, also in a close association with the city itself. City councils, the bourgeoisie maintain theater houses in particular locations, not the state, because there is no overarching state at the time. There are competing empires, even within Italy, but local municipalities, cities, small princedoms. This is the understanding of theater, and this is the environment when we have to look at Beirut. What we see at Beirut in the 1840s is that after the evacuation of the Egyptian troops, there is a general reintegration into the Ottoman Empire. The Tanzimat arrives in Beirut, and you know a lot about this, so I don't want to bore you with the legal negotiations or how the Wilayat is formed and so on and so forth. But let's look at this particular person. Oh, I wanted to show you this. So this is, for instance, a translation of the Nabucco for Sultan Abdul Majid into Ottoman Turkish. It's the script. And this is the Abdul Majidian Irada for Mikhail Naum or Michel Naum to establish his theater. Well, it's actually the second building as an imperial, an Ottoman theater. It's a very interesting document. I don't want to go into details, but why I show this to you is that this is exactly the same year when Marun Naqash performs his first play, Al-Bakhil, here in Beirut. What we know about the background of Marun Naqash is that before this performance of Al-Bakhil, he went to Alexandria and then to Italy for a short trip. And when he returned, he wrote this play Al-Bakhil and performed in his own house with his own family members. I think everybody knows this play, or if not, please read it, because it is supposed to be the first written modern Arabic drama. There were some, recently Philip Sedgrove and others discovered a play written in Arabic in Algiers, if I'm not mistaken, or in Tunis, by a North African Jew, which was very likely written earlier, but never performed. So whatever is the significance of the first Arabic play, I think it's much more important that the first performance occurred here in Beirut, and the Arabic theater tradition was established here, which later on spread all around the Arab world, if we want to say, because of several reasons. So we are in the 1840s with Marun Naqash here in Beirut, in the middle of Ottoman reintegration, performing this play. It's a musical comedy about a stingy man. Please read it. I don't want to go into textual details because it's not a literary talk. His next play, Abul Hassan al-Mughaffal, or Harun al-Rashid, is a very interesting political play. In my humble opinion, and I read a lot, I think this is the best written 19th century Arabic play, Abul Hassan al-Mughaffal. It is based on a tale from the 1001 Nights. It's this famous moment when this poor man, who is a little bit a drunkard, is drugged by the Khalifa, the Caliph Harun al-Rashid, put into his own palace, dressed as the Caliph. So when Abul Hassan wakes up, he thinks that he is the Caliph. He's a Caliph for one day, and then he's drugged again, put back his own environment, and he wakes up, and he's again this poor man. Obviously, there is a love story in the whole thing, and there's a very interesting interplay with identities that Abul Hassan al-Mughaffal often has a flashback. So who I am I the Caliph or am I Abul Hassan still? It's very entertaining, I think. It's very well written, and it really reflects many things. What around 1849, someone a highly educated intellectual thought about power in Beirut. This is, of course, Abul Hassan al-Mughaffal is an allegory about the Ottoman Sultan itself, and being powerful. It also talks about what is justice, what is the right relationship between ruled and ruler. I think it's a very interesting play, and if you read it not only as a text, as a literary text, but as a document of the time, I think this tells us a lot about, if not much, but about the imagination of one Maronite merchant in Beirut, which is, I think, a particular window to the times. I have to call also the attention that this is a moment when, as in this university you know very well, Protestant missionaries are in Beirut, and at the background, the other background is not the Ottoman background, but the mountain background here. That is, there is a constant activity, missionary activity of converting or inviting, especially Maronite Christians to Protestantism. And some of the converts, like the famous Butrus al-Bustani, became super important, crucial literary figures and intellectual figures in Beirut. But this is, what I'm talking about is before all of this. So Bustani is still just converted. Nafir Surya is nowhere. We are before 1860. To think about this moment through the eyes of a Maronite merchant, and in this way we may see that this represents a kind of autochthonous Ottoman Maronite relation in also about solidarity. Because for Marun Na'ash, and we know this from a speech, solidarity was a crucial requisite for modern progress, and he thought that theater and theater plays are means to achieve this solidarity. We are before the 1860 clashes. This document that I wanted to show you is something that I discovered, but not very revolutionary. This is a request by the Beirut City Majlis to the Ottoman Sultan for a theater building in Beirut and for a tura. A theater building and for a tura, an imperial signature, because they intended to place this tura above the door of the theater. They say in this that Marun Na'ash, it's written by Emin Effendi, who was the Rais of the Majlis at the time. It's in Ottoman Turkish. They say that Marun Na'ash is a trustworthy man, is a morally absolutely okay guy. He went to Europe with an imperial Beirut and came back and started to write these plays, and they mention explicitly the Harun al-Rashid play, which is about the Arab history, but it is actually the praise of the Ottoman Sultan through Arab history. This is very cleverly put. So, and because everybody likes it, everybody likes this play, since it is about the Ottoman Sultan, and we all love the Ottoman Sultan, we would like to have a municipality theater building, and we would like to place Your Highness, Your Majesty's tura on its building. And there is one piece of very curious information, because as far as I know, so far was not known Marun Na'ash. And the very end of this letter, at the very end of this letter here, Patriarch, here, Wakili, here they say that Marun Naqash is also the Wakil of the Maronite Patriarch in Beirut, which is a very interesting thing. First of all, what is a Wakil in this? What does it mean, Wakil? What is he, a representative of the Patriarch in Beirut? And why a young merchant? I don't know. Tomorrow I will go to the Patriarchate's archive and we will see if I get access, and if I have, perhaps there is information on this, perhaps not. Perhaps they just put it to boost up the credentials of Marun Naqash. No. They got the imperial permission. This is the draft of the imperial firman for the theater building and also for the Tura. And we know from other sources that yes, a theater building was built actually on, very likely on the personal estates of the Naqash family, and the Tura was placed above the door. This building is supposedly in Gemaiza, as you know very well, is today's Saint Joseph's church. Yes, just in front of Sacre-Cœur. Is it Saint Joseph? It's
no, it's Santa. Saint Joseph, it's Jesuits.
Oh, it's Santa. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's Franciscans. Yes. So I don't know, because I'm not savvy in Beirut urban history. The last person I read about this is Matimosa, who says that he thinks that maybe this is the place where the Naqash theater was. If anyone has any information, I asked some friends also in the German Research Institute, but there is no, as far as I know, no real proof of that this was actually the place of. Then why? The question is why? How come that such an important thing, like a city theater, with the Tura of the Sultan, just disappears like this? How come that after 3 plays, Marun stops? What happened? No theater histories tell us about this. They say that, okay, Marun Naqash had some merchant trips, went somewhere in Anatolia and died in 1855. But his last play is in around 1852, As-Salit al-Hasu. So why did he stop? Before I tell you why did he stop to write plays, I have to tell you a footnote, which is a very important footnote, and no one really knows about this, but if there is any PhD student here who is interested in this, you may go, or any professor, is that actually Marun Naqash is not the first theater or playwright in Arabic. Or not, let's put it like this, he's not the only first one in Beirut. His brother Nicola also wrote plays, but those plays didn't survive. We don't know those plays. My theory and hypothesis, which is completely unfounded, so please don't believe me, is that there was a rivalry between the brothers. We know from some sources that in 1847, Marun staged the play. In 1848, his brother Nicola staged the play. In 1849, again, Marun staged the play, this Abul Hassan al-Mughaffa, and then in 1850, the next year again, Nicola. So those plays, we don't know where they are. There are no manuscripts survived as far as I know. If anyone knows of this particular branch of the many Naqash families, and please go on, and that would be a real sensation if we would locate those plays. So there are actually more plays from this very early period written by Maronite merchants. Nicola was also a merchant, and he worked in the customs in Beirut at the time. So let me tell you a long story short, which is a very complicated story, and I'm still trying to understand it. Why did they, both of them actually, stopped writing plays after 1852? What happens in 1852? I was completely clueless. What happens in 1852? we are still just before the Crimean War. Things are more or less all right in Beirut. There is no particular... and then I went to Nantes, to the Archives Diplomatiques, to see the French consulate documents. And I found the solution. The solution is very banal. The family became bankrupt. The whole family became bankrupt. It's a very complicated story. The father, Ilyas, was a big merchant. He was not a small one. He was very rich. He asked a loan from the saraf, the official saraf of the Pasha of the Valley. So the local Ottoman governor's official financial administrator gave a loan to Ilyas, a big loan. His name was Antun. He was an Ottoman Armenian, actually, and demanded much more money back than was the loan. More than 100,000 piasters, which at the time was, as far as I know, was a big amount. And Ilyas didn't want to pay, because he said this amount is not correct. At the time, the Wali was Wamik Pasha. And Wamik Pasha had, obviously, first of all, a close official relationship to his own financial advisor, but also a personal one. He was also his own kind of personal banker. So Antun Saraf, if today we would say he just picked the phone and called Wamik Pasha that, look, this guy doesn't want to pay me, so prison him, put him in the jail. And this didn't happen first. Wamik Pasha asked Ilyas to come and told him, okay, look, this is what Antun demands from you. This is what you say. In my official capacity, I can still do some justice. So let's negotiate. Let's negotiate. Let's set up a committee to find out how much you really own. There was a committee, but the committee members were mostly the men of Wamik Pasha and not the men of Ilyas. Although Ilyas' son, Maroun, actually was in the committee himself as well. We are 1852. The committee established a kind of middle amount, and then it turned out that actually Ilyas can't pay that, even that amount, because he had other loans as well. He had many other loans to merchants in Beirut and in Tripoli as well, who were partly either Frenchmen or French protégés. And this is the moment when the French consul intervenes and says, oh, okay, so our French commercial interests are in danger. Very likely, obviously, under the influence of these French protégés or the Frenchmen, or the French merchants, because Ilyas also couldn't pay them, and there was a kind of, he had his, as far as I can understand, he had around 60,000 piasters, which was even less than the negotiated amount to Antun de Sarraf, but this 60,000 piasters was also the amount that he...
The French.
Pardon? That he, yeah. So he was like, okay, do I pay it for them or do I pay it for them? But then, Wamik Pasha and Antun came and take the money by force from him. So, at this moment, a very complicated issue started. The French consul demanded the punishment, the imprisonment and complete confiscation of all belongings of Ilyas from Wamik Pasha. But Wamik Pasha didn't want to do it. First of all, because they got the money. And second, very likely, there is still some fishy detail in the background that we don't know. But Wamik Pasha, at this moment, rejected the French consul's demands and said that, look, it's a merchant issue, I can't do anything. So what the French consul did, and this is a very nice window into how the whole imperial network functioned at this moment, wrote to the ambassador, the French ambassador in Istanbul, that go to the Sultan or the Grand Vizier and ask an imperial order from the Grand Vizier, written to Vamik Pasha, that he should indeed imprison this merchant, because our French interests are in danger. It didn't happen. Seemingly, the Ottoman administration, even at the highest level, thought that, well, why should we obey the French consuls, and why should we obey the French? We are still before the Crimean War, okay? Although the French consul wrote at least 4 times to Istanbul, through the whole issue was more than a year span. At the very end, he couldn't get a direct order to imprison Ilyas and confiscate all his belongings. Because meanwhile, Nicola and Marun, the 2 sons, they went around to the creditors and settled the issues in one way or another. We don't know how. So this is the story of the end of a cultural experiment through an economic moment in this time. This is one of the letters of the French consul, and this is the Ottoman-Turkish translation of the testimony of Ilyas Nakash, what he gave to the Pasha at one particular point. It's also very interesting. He constantly refers to actually that he is the subject of the Sultan. This is a wonderful story at the same time, because it's also about a legal question, right? Who has the right to do justice here? How far the French consul authority goes? How a merchant in Beirut actually fails in a cultural enterprise because of his father's business. They never became proteges of any imperial power. They always remained Ottoman citizens. And we don't know actually why and how later on Marun Nakash died in 1855 exactly. Very likely he was a very sensitive man at the time and just became ill. Very likely due to this whole process of negotiating. Actually, the father was taken once or twice for a short time to prison by Vamik Pasha, but only for a short time. Then the sons were also requested by the Pasha to come and negotiate. So it's a long, complicated issue. It was a long and complicated issue. What is interesting, and this I would like to finish with this, that Marun was not only a playwright, of course, he was a poet, first of all. He has fantastic poetry, praising poetry, written to various members of the Beirut community, and also, obviously, to the Sultan, to Vamik Pasha, and even to Said Pasha, the Khedive of Egypt, well, the Pasha of Egypt at the time, it's before the title of Khedive. So you can see also the Ottoman loyalties of this merchant, and also his imagination that there are all these powerful Pashas, so it is actually good if I write poetry as a kind of political communication. I mean, this is my understanding. This poetry is not a sheer praise. This has a political message. His brother Nicola, however, survived and became a very influential member of the Beirut Ottoman community. An indication of how good Ottoman citizens they were is that actually Nicola became a member of the first Ottoman parliament in the 1870s, in 1878, 1879. He also translated the Ottoman constitution into Arabic. He translated commercial laws also into Arabic from Ottoman Turkish. So they functioned as a kind of bridge between Istanbul and Beirut. Nicola has a hand in the historiographical image of his brother Marun. The only way we know about the plays of Marun Naqash is through Nicola, because as perhaps you know, in 1869, he published a book collecting the poetry and the plays of his brother. And this publication is the only publication we have. We don't have the manuscripts. We don't have the original manuscripts, as far as I know, of the plays. But when the plays were republished by Muhammad Yusuf Najam in the 1960s, he used this particular book, which is called Arzat Lubnan. Arzat Lubnan were the plays of, the center of Lebanon. It's 1869, and we know actually why it happened. Because at the time, so in the 1860s, the Wali of Beirut asked Nicola to publish it. So it was a request from the Ottoman governor to publish these plays and the poetry. So there is a whole Ottoman idea about culture and patriotism, I would say, because all these plays are framed in a patriotic. If you look at the book, in a patriotic moment, in a patriotic discourse. And of course, this patriotic discourse is, at the time of the publication of the book in 1869, is also influenced by the post-1860 Mutasarrafiyya arrangement. So this is an image, or this is a collection of texts which was produced after 1860, but were written much before 1860. And reflect actually a different type of arrangement, perhaps. It's very hard to unearth the actual late 1840s, early 1850s Ottoman Maronite worldview, because there is later historical pollution, if you want. We can't we can see it clearly because we don't have more material. But if we would have Nicolai's own plays or other Maronite cultural activity at the time, perhaps we can understand it in a better light. So this is what I wanted to tell you, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed for telling us about these findings, the documents, and the reading that you made, connecting or putting things in the larger picture. I open the question for questions and discussions. Yes, please.
Thank you very much for this case study, also highlighting this interrelation between commercial activity or success or defeat and cultural activity. And my question concerns this relationship, which might be significant beyond that case also. If we think of the Bustani activities, which always had a commercial aspect, and this very this constraints also to make cultural activity run by certain sort of income is constitutive of that. What happened of that nada, actually. So my question would be whether that also applies to the theater plays, translating playwrights of Molière and so on. Was there a commercial aspect also to that by, inviting audiences, or however that was organized? Maybe you could shed some more light on that aspect.
Thank you very much. It's an excellent question. As far as I know, Naqash was never involved. This was not a commercial enterprise in the sense that it was not a troupe which would have toured or would have performed regularly. at this very early moment. But his nephew, Salim Naqash, who then went to Egypt in 1876, he's the one who starts basically theater, Arabic theater as a commercial enterprise. And then many Beirutis, Sulaiman Qardahi, and then of course the Damascene Abu Khalil al-Qabani, became basically theater impresarios and tour managers in Egypt in the 1880s, already in the 1880s. And they used as a core of their repertoire some of these plays. And then theater became a commercial enterprise, and then this is how Arab stardom and entertainment industry starts in Egypt by a cooperation of Beiruti and Shami actors and tour managers and local singers like Salama Hajaz, because music is the one which sells theater.
Excuse me, in this sense, because when you said, when you introduced the play of the Avar al-Bakhil of Molière, you said it's a drama, and you said it's a singing play. I think Marnash introduced the singing because the tradition of theater was a little bit, strange or badly accepted by the population. And he liked the Rahbani, when you have these operette, when you have songs, It was a way, because I saw an old, I don't know if it's a, Jabal Khouri, once I saw with him a photo, I don't know if it's, as it, we showed them, this photo shows that they were smoking ergili and uploading when there's a dancer or a singer, and then at interment of the play, they used to present the avar like this, in order to have audience. So the money as an investment, people not coming, etc. I think this is the major issue also to raise it, because he ended his experience. I don't remember well the sentence. I will say it in Arabic because I don't know the translation. He said, "إن المسرح وليس المسرح."
طبعا.
أن يكمل في هذه البلاد إنه لضرب من المحال. It was a way of saying it's not going to continue. So he was upset of not having sufficient audience and sufficient, money raised out of as an experience of theater. I think this is something very important to say. And another insight, but I'll put it between brackets. It's amazing. Now I had this idea now, this insight. Having a brother called Nicolas at that time, I know it's not very politically correct to say it, and his name is Maroon. I think his father, yes, is very intelligent, because all the merchants were Greek Orthodox, and having relationships with the Ottoman Empire, it was a way in order to, because under the Makkawiyya and under the Mutasarrifiyya, Beirut was never, it always stayed as a wilaya of Ottoman wilaya. And in order to be able to work and to have these facilities, names are, there's this kind of determinants by small first names. It's an inside state between brackets.
So you think that Nicola is Nicola because of the Russian connection?
It's the
Orthodox connection.
And by that time, they handled all the activities, merchant activities.
That's
For a Maronite, by that time, to work in business coming from side up.
Nether.
Possible.
No,
No, I think especially for merchants that's certainly a feature. But just one note on the music. We know very well actually why Marun Naqash chose musical theater. He tells us, we have this speech in this book published by his brother. He says that, look, in Europe, he knew what's going on. That, look, in Europe there is prose theater, drama, there is sung theater called opera, and there is half-sung theater called operetta. And I, Marun Naqash, choose opera as the right format of my play, because I think, he says, if you look at Arz Atlabnum, it's there, it pleases more my people. This is only what he says. I don't think that at the time he thought about commercial implications. I don't see anywhere in the text what we have that Maru Nakash himself thought about theater as a commercial enterprise. He thought about theater, as I said, as a kind of Watani project for Tamaddun. But his nephew, Salim, he understood that it's a commercial enterprise, yes. And then the others, yes. But that's a later. So in this early stage, he saw that, wow, this is a political project rather than a commercial one, I think. Yeah.
Yes, please,
I'm just wondering, no, I'm not a specialist, but I'm just wondering this very silly question. Nicolas' plays, you were saying that they happened 1 year after Maroon's plays, so immediately after he would put on another play, is completely different?
Yes, the next year.
The next
So they were like in a rotation.
Alternating.
Alternating, yes.
And where did you get this information from? Because I haven't read it anywhere.
It's, I can tell you, but it's very likely perhaps one early article of Philip Sedgrove, who bases this on either Arzat Lubnan itself, because Nicola also publishes some plays, or published some of his own poetry, only poetry, not plays. And I don't know, you should, I can send you the reference of Sedgrove, and it's there.
And Salim is Nicolas' son or someone else's son?
I think Salim is someone else's son.
Okay.
I know that Nicola and Salim in the late 60s and early 70s, so before Salim actually went to Egypt, they cooperated. So Nicola at the time was already an older man.
Yeah.
He was a grand Ottoman merchant bourgeois here in Beirut, so he sponsored also theater plays and like charity plays as well for the community. So Salim was involved with him. So there is it's not only a family link, but there is a direct working relationship. So between Nicola and Salim staged some of the plays of his uncle. So we know that even at that time, Nicola's plays were staged in the late 1860s, early 70s. But we don't know where are they.
What happened to them?
Yeah,
No
at least I have zero information. In what I have read, no one says.
But you also said that Mamun Ash is supposed to be the first to have written a text, and so
No,
you don't
the first performer.
Okay, but you don't consider Ibn Daniel's plays.
This is a very complicated issue, and I deliberately didn't want to go into the origins of this and how can we understand it in the great Arab literary tradition. I would say that I would be radical here, and I would say that yes, this is a modern genre, a new genre, and Maru Nakash and actually all the other Arab theater persons or actors, directors, at the time, they were conscious that they are doing something very radically new. This was actually why they did it. They thought that this is modern, this is something new. So they did not frame it. They used poetry, Arabic poetry from earlier times and forms, and reused them in a very creative way. But they didn't link it to Ibn Daniel. They even didn't link it to shadow plays or Karagöz or anything else, themselves. So, and there's a very simple reason why they and I myself consider it a new activity, and this is that we don't have to think about textual approach only. This is an embodied performance. So when they wrote a play, and this is why many theater plays actually didn't survive the manuscripts, also Nicola, but I mean, there are others later on, because this was for performance and not for reading. They were not published immediately, much later. So this is the logic that is behind early Arabic theater. This is a performance. This is live. And what you do live on stage in front of an audience in a closed space is a new experience. It's a new spatial and social experience. It's not the street plays. It's not the street comedies. This is really it's about bourgeoisie itself and how to behave, how to clothe. It comes together with a lot of things. It's not only a text. It's alive.
Yeah, Daniel was a live performance as well.
Yeah, but at the time, Ibn Daniel, as far as I know, was not performed in the early 19th century, was it?
No.
So, and not in the way, perhaps not in the way that in a suit you sat in a space which is hierarchically arranged. There is a stage there, and there is an audience.
Dr. Livia,
but you can make the argument that yes, textually there is a relationship.
Thank you. It's a fascinating story. I also had a factual question, kind of. So I understand from your talk that the place of the theater, the theater itself, we no longer know exactly where. We are not sure exactly where it was.
But there is a plaque on the wall of this church that here was the first performance of Marun Ash play. But this is based, as far as I know, this is based on an estimation, as far as I know.
Okay, so the actual building is no longer there.
It's a church now. But it was very early. It was bought by Catholics, the Franciscans. I don't know, because there is a data that it was the papal nuncius actually who bought it in 1855, because I have no proof for this. But Matimosa and others also say that, I guess this is a Beirut urban legend, that when Marun Ash died, he had a will, and in his will he said that destroy the theater and sell the place. And then, but I am very I have doubts that, or if it was the case, why? I think by that time they were already bankrupt, so they lost. Perhaps they already lost the place. So that's an elegant way to put that. Actually, we were bankrupt and we just had to sell the house.
Destroyed, sold, and the church was built.
Yes, it was certainly sold. And then the church was built, I don't know exactly. It was built exactly.
It transformed a part of the building, because when you see it as an architectural issue, you see some difference.
No. Oh, no.
some of the
I haven't seen it, but organize an excursion with your students, and if you discover it, please let me know, and or write an article on it. And
I have a question, just out of curiosity. Who were the French protege, the Beiruti merchants protege, the French were claiming against Ash? Because that would also be interesting to see too.
yes, in these letters there are no names, but we know exactly there are lists who were at the time the French proteges. I didn't look at those lists, but it's easy to establish who were the. Yeah, so it's easy, but we don't know who were exactly those who were the creditors of Marun. At least in these letters are not indicated.
Dr. Isagi said.
Further.
Just two questions. Would the building be outside or within the walls of the city at the time? Because if it is outside, then probably it will.
You know the urban plan of Beirut at the time better than me. It is today it's outside of the walls.
It's outside.
There,
Suggests that it was a humble place.
as far as I know, it was the personal estate of the family. It was where they lived, actually. This is what I know. There is
this is where the Maronites gathered historically. Is the case? But that was after the 1860s.
So there is a description from a British traveler who came to Beirut in 1850, Urquhart, who was actually present in one of the performances in this house. He doesn't say clearly where he is going, but he says that we go through small streets, and then at one moment we just arrived in this house. There was a beautiful garden, and in the garden there was a stage set up. It was before the theater building was built. It's 1850 January. So it's before, this is, the letter that I showed you is 1850 August, the Majlis letters, requesting the building.
Do you know what they were? This idea that people are rich is always begs the question, how did they become rich? What kind of trade were they in? I mean, I'm trying to imagine what it was in 1850s, and it was not the most prosperous city by comparison with what it was under the Egyptians. So what was he involved in?
Ilyas,
Yes.
the father, I think in wheat. I can't give you now more details, but it's not that hard to get. I mean, they were very likely involved in the customs, so they get some money from the customs as well. I mean, the son, Nicola, was an official Ottoman administrator, so he got also a salary. But the father, he was a trader. I don't know exactly what kind of merchandise he had.
And did you say that Nicola became a member of parliament in the first parliament?
Yes, Nicola, yes.
18. Did you use the press to throw light on the subject that you are working in? Because especially in the case of Nicola, because there already was a press there.
Yes.
I remember seeing him in some of the early numbers of
Yes.
Lisan al-Hali.
Yes. Yes, as I said, he became a very, very respected member of the Beiruti community, so he's often in the news, at least when there is, for instance, a charity activity. Unfortunately, at this time, so the early 50s, there is still no journals in Beirut. The earliest one is 1858, as we know very well, Khalil al-Khoury. And then journals are often, so it's a complicated issue, because what we face here is also a self-representation, because many of the journals are either Catholic or Protestants in early years. And for some reason, they never mention Maroun Naqash and his activity.
He's not in the Bashir at all?
As far as I know, he's not. He has also a very small place in literary histories. I mean, Mary mentioned that, yes, the first playwright, and full stop.
He's in Sheikho.
He's in Sheikho, yes. He's in Sheikho, yes. But there is a kind of a limited space devoted. So
the fact that you occupy the limited space may give us really an idea of how important he was at that period of time.
I think I didn't do that research, and perhaps I won't. If we would read the 1860s and 1870s press fully, with these eyes, looking for Nicola and the traces or the silences on Maroun, then we would be able to find perhaps something. Perhaps actually Maroun left a bad memory in the community, I don't know. Something which is not written, but people talked. So it is a very welcome suggestion. I didn't do it because I was interested in the first part of it.
See the interest still among the Beirutis about, you know.
I am in Egypt. I'm fully in Egypt now, unfortunately. But inshallah, I will publish this once, and then it will be a pleasure, of course.
Any more questions or discussions? Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.